We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis in Meseches Rosh Hashana. This is Rosh Hashana Daf 33b. The Gemara had asked that it seems to be a contradiction whether when it comes to Ketanim, do we encourage them to blow shofar on Yontiv or on Shabbos, or is it that if they're blowing shofars, then we don't stop them? And the Gemara answers, in one case we're talking B'Katan She'Yigia L'Chinuch. We're talking about a case of a minor who has reached the age of Chinuch where we're trying to train the Katan. As Rashi over here says, Katan She'Yigia L'Chinuch, Misaskin Behen Sheyilmedu. In that case, we actually encourage them to blow shofar on Yontiv and Shabbos so that they should learn how to do it. V'chol shekein shein ma'akvin. Certainly we don't hold them back. And the Gemara continues, Kan b'katan shelo higia l'chinuch. In the other case where it's talking about where we're not encouraging them actively, we just don't stop them if they're doing it, that's talking about a katan that is not the age of chinuch. In such a situation, there's no real obligation to train the katan, but if the katan happens to be blowing the shofar on Yontiv and Shabbos, we won't stop them. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, V'hamisasek lo yotze. It says that let's say a person is blowing the shofar, but they're unaware that they're blowing the shofar. So if you do it in that fashion, you're not going to be yotze the mitzvah on Rosh Hashanah. And so the Gemara says, Hatokeya l'shir yotze. The implication of the Mishnah is that let's say a person would blow shofar for the purpose of making music. So in that case, they're aware that they're blowing the shofar, but they're not doing it for the mitzvah. So it sounds like you're yotze. You're only not yotze if you're completely unaware of what you're doing. As Rashi over here says, Misasek hu delo she'eno miskavin l'tkiya. Person's not even trying to blow shofar at all. It's completely unaware. Ve'afilo delav mitzvah, not even trying to blow shofar, not for mitzvah purposes. Ela menabech nevuche o she'nofech b'shofar v'yolso b'yado tkiya, happens to blow in the shofar and comes out of tkiya. Aval tokeya l'shir. Sounds like from the Mishnah, if a person would be blowing shofar for the music, she'miskavin l'tkiya, is trying at least to make a tkiya, l'tkiya bi'alma yotza, then apparently be yotze the mitzvah, even though he's not having in mind for the mitzvah. And so the Gemara says, Lema Messiah le Rava. Let us say that our Mishnah is actually a support for Rava. The Yomar Rava, because Rava says, Hatokeya l'shir yotze, somebody who blows shofar for the music, he can still be yotze the mitzvah in that fashion. And the Gemara says, Dilma tokeya l'shir nami misasek karele. It's not necessarily a proof. Sometimes you use the word misasek, the Gemara says, maybe when you're tokeya l'shir, when you blow shofar for the purpose of music, maybe our Mishnah is calling that misasek. The word misasek is not 100% clear what it means. It could mean that you're doing it, you're totally unaware. But it could also mean that you're doing it, you're not having intention for the mitzvah, you're just doing it for music, and therefore, since it's not clear what the word misasek means, it's not necessarily a proof one way or the other. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah of Hashomea min ha-misasek lo yotze. The Mishnah said if you hear the shofar from somebody who's blowing and they're unaware they're misasek, so you're not yotze. So the Gemara says again, aval hashomea min ha-mashmiya la'atzmo mai. But what if a person would hear the shofar from somebody who's trying to blow for themselves, but not really having in mind for the person listening? It sounds like yotze. It sounds like the Mishnah is saying that would be okay. It's only a problem when the person is completely unaware. Lema tave tiyuvte de Rabbi Zeir. Let us say that this is a refutation of Rabbi Zeir's opinion. The Amar le Rabbi Zeir l'shami, because Rabbi Zeir said to his servant, Echaven v'takali, you have to have kavana, have me in mind when you blow shofar. You have me in mind. That's how I'll be yotze the mitzvah. Sounds like that you do have to have the other person in mind. So the Gemara says, no, deal ma'aidi de tana reisha misasek, tana seifa nami misasek. Maybe since the beginning of the Mishnah used the word misasek, so at the end of the Mishnah we mentioned that if you hear from someone who's misasek, you're not yotze, but it's possible that even if you hear from somebody who did not have you in mind, you would not be yotze in that case at all. It's not necessarily a proof from the Mishnah. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Seder Tekiyos Shalosh Shel Shalosh Shalosh. When it comes to the blowing of the shofar, you blow 3 times, meaning you blow it Malchios, Zechronos, and Shofros, like we said before. And when you actually blow the shofar each time, it's a Tekiya, Trua Tekiya. As Rashi over here says, Seder Tekiyos Shalosh, Achas LeMalchios, Ve'achas LeZechronos, Ve'achas LeShoforos. Again, you blow once at Malchios, once at Zechronos, and once at Shofros. Shalosh Shel Shalosh Shalosh, meaning Tekiya, Utrua Tekiya, L'Cholachas Ve'achas. You blow a Tekiya, Trua Tekiya for each one of them, meaning Tekiya, Trua Tekiya for Malchios, Tekiya, Trua Tekiya for Zechronos, and Tekiya, Trua Tekiya for Shofaros. And the Mishnah continues, Shir Tekiya Kishalosh Truos. The length of a Tekiya should be the same amount as 3 Truos, Shir Trua Kishalosh Yabavos. And the shear of a Trua should be like 3 Yabavos. Rashi over here says, Shalosh Yabavos, Shalosh Kolos Bi'alma Kolshu, meaning 3 sounds, just the smallest sounds you can make. So that amount, if you put 3 of those together, that should be the measurement of a Trua. Taka Berishono Mashach B'Shniya Kishtayim. Let's say a person, when they're blowing the Tekiyas, so the first Tekiya, they do a regular Tekiya, and then at the end of the set, it's Tekiya, Trua Tekiya. So then the Tekiya at the end of the set, they make it a double Tekiya. They want it to count for the last Tekiya of the first set, and they also want it to count for the first Tekiya of the next set. Ein biyado ela achas, it only counts as one. You can't have one long Tekiya count as 2. Misha beirach v'achar kach nismana lo shofar. Let's say a person makes the brachas. In other words, he does the amida. He doesn't have a shofar at the time, and then he finds a shofar a little later. So then tokeya umaria v'tokeya. He should blow tekiya, trua tekiya, shalosh pa'amim. He should do that 3 times. And the Mishnah finishes kishem sheshliach tzibur chayev kach kol yochid v'yochid chayev. Just like the shliach tzibur is chayev when it comes to this mitzvah, so too every individual is chayev. Rabbi Gamliel says shliach tzibur motzi es haravim yedei chovasim. He says the shliach tzibur is motzi everyone else in their obligation. And Rashi over here says taka berishon. Again, he does the first tekiya of the set. That's the pshuta shelafnei hatrua taka kedarka, meaning the tekiya right in the beginning of the tekiya trua tekiya he does normally. Umashach b'shniya tekiya shel achar hatrua mashach kishtayim. The tekiya that's after the trua, by the tekiya trua tekiya, he does that double length. Lotzes bo yedei shtayim. He wants it to count as 2. Shayatzarach lazo zu pshuta shel achared the malchios upshuta shel afanad the zechronos. He wants it to count as the last tekiya of the malchios set and the first tekiya of the zechronos set. That doesn't work. Ein biyado el achas. It only counts as 1. The psuke tekiya achas l'shtayim lo mefaskin. You can't cut a tekiya in half and make it count as 2. And then it said again in the Mishnah, Misha beirach espalo tfilas musaf and uverach tisha brachos. Let's say you daven musaf and only afterwards you found a shofar. So what do? Tokeya umaria v'tokeya shalosh pa'amim. You blow the tekiya trua tekiya 3 times. Tokeya umaria v'tokeya b'shvil malchias v'chein b'shvil zechronos v'chein b'shvil shofar. So in other words, you do tekiya trua tekiya for malchias, you do it again for zechronos, and you do it again for shofaros. And the Gemara says v'hatanya, but didn't we learn in a brayso shir tekiya kitrua, that the length of a tekiya is exactly the same as a trua? In our Mishnah it says the length of a tekiya is the same as 3 truas. So it seems to be a contradiction. So the Gemara says, Amar Abaya says, Tana didon kachashiv tekiya tekulhu bavi, utruos tekulhu bavi. Our Tana is counting the tekiyas of all the sets and truos of all the sets. Tana bara kachashiv chad bava v'sulo. The Tana of the Brisa is just counting 1 set. Rashi over here explains, Tana didon kachashiv tekulhu bavi v'hachi kamar. Our Tana means as follows: Shir shalosh tekiyos. The amount of 3 tekiyos keshalosh hatruos is the same as 3 truos. The Tana baraka chashiv dechadabava. The Tana of the Bryce is considering 1, meaning shir hatkiya keshir hatrua, meaning the length of a tkiya is the same as the length of a trua. Utravayu chadamil samri. In other words, the point is they're really saying an identical thing. Both are saying that the length of a tekiya is the same as a trua. In the Mishnah, it happens to be saying that the length of the 3 tekiyos is equal to the length of the 3 truos. That's exactly the same as saying that the length of 1 tekiya is the same as the length of 1 trua. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots, quoting the Mishnah, Shir trua kagimel yabavos. The amount of a trua is like 3 yabavos. We said yabavos is basically the smallest sound that you can make. Gemara asks Vatanya, but we learned in a Brisa shir trua keshlosha shvarim, that the amount of a trua is like 3 shvarim. Rashi says, what's shvarim? Shvarim is aruchim yavavos. They're a little bit longer than yavavos. That would mean a trua is a little bit longer. So Amar Abaya says, B'havadai pligi. In this, there's for sure a machlokas, meaning there's a machlokas between our Mishnah and the Brisa. Techsiv, because the pasuk says Yom Trua Yelochem. It says it's a day of trua. We translate the word trua as yabava. And the Gemara continues, Uchsiv, and it's written, Be'imei de Sisra, when it's talking about the mother of Sisra, it says, Ba'ar hachalon nishkafa, she was looking by the window, V'atiyabev em Sisra. It also uses the word V'atiyabev when she was crying. So now the machlokas is as follows, Mar savar genuche gonach, Umar savar yilula yolil. And Rashi over here explains, Manda amar shivorim savar genuche gonach. The one who says that the trua is 3 shvarim, that's the longer notes, that's the one that holds that she was genuche gonach. Rashi says, Ka'adam hagoneach milibo kederach hacholim, shema'arichen b'geni chosein. It's talking like somebody who is sick, so they groan. So those are a little bit longer. That's what one holds the mother of Sisera was doing. That's what it means when it says that she was Vatayabev. And the other one says Yulula Yolil means Kadam Habocha Mekonen Kolos Ketzarim. That's like someone who's crying. They have very short sounds. Smuchen Zelazeh, very close to one another. So it's just a machlokas again, basically what that means. What sounds exactly are the trua composed of. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, Minayin Shebeshofar. How do you know that the mitzvah of Tekiya, Trua Tekiya, and Rosh Hashana is with a shofar? Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, Va'avarta Shofar Trua. Now that pasuk is talking about Yovel, but it talks about using the shofar. So Ein Li Ela B'Yovel, I only know that's true on Yovel that you use the shofar. But Rosh Hashana Minayin, how do we know that you use the shofar on Rosh Hashana? Talmud lomer b'chodesh hashvi, because the pasuk over there talks about the chodesh hashvi. She'ein Talmud lomer b'chodesh hashvi. It doesn't need to say the words b'chodesh hashvi. We already know we're talking about on the day of Yom Kippur. We know that Yom Kippur is in the 7th month. U'ma Talmud lomer b'chodesh hashvi. So why does it have to say over there b'chodesh hashvi? The pasuk means to tell you sheyu kol cheruos shel chodesh shvi zeh kazeh. All blowings, all cheruos in the 7th month should be identical. So just like in the Yovel year on Yom Kippur, again, that's in the 7th month, you're going to blow with a shofar. So too on Rosh Hashanah, you should blow with a shofar. And the Gemara continues, Uminayin shepshuta lefonah. How do we know that it's not just a trua? How do you know you have to do a tkiyah beforehand? Talmud lomar vavarta shofar. It says vahavarta. That language indicates a kind of single sound like a tkiyah. Vahavarta shofar trua. Uminayin shepshuta lachareh. How do we know we do the sound of tkiyah afterwards? In other words, how do we know it's tkiyah, trua, and then another tkiyah at the end? Talmud lomer, the pasuk also says ta'aviru shofar. Again, the same kind of language. The idea of ta'aviru sounds like one sound, like a tkiyah. V'yein li'ela b'yovel, and again, these psukim are all by Yovel. I only know this is true by Yovel. But Rosh Hashanah minayin, how do we know this is true by Rosh Hashanah as well? And the Gemara says Talmud lomer b'chodesh hashvi. The pasuk says in the 7th month. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph.